It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm ready, guys. Our Week 5 team builder here for the GBA. The St. Louis Rampardos are taking on the Philadelphia Scizors and Coach Chimpact. What's chimping? It's about to go down, guys. I'm very excited about this. If you don't know, we actually picked up a nice W last week. We are sitting at 2-2, and we are only one game out of first place. And if the season ended right now, we would actually make the playoffs. Surprisingly, now just another friendly reminder. Someone pointed this out to me on Twitter. Apparently, season 5, I started 2-2, and I won the championship. So we're still in it. We're still in it is all I'm trying to say, but we've got a very tough opponent here. Chimpact is 3-1 so far this season. He's ranked as one of the highest teams in the league, and for good reason. The guy's a tremendous battler, and he's got a very, very scary team. I looked at his team, and I was like, man, this guy did a great job in drafting. He's got some really, really cool threats. So we'll talk a little bit about his team. We'll talk about our team and so on and so forth. Before I do that, I want to let you guys know that we did make some blockbuster deals. I did announce on Twitter, but I did make some trades and a free agent transaction. These will not be in effect until next week against the Borussia Donphan and Coach Lars L. Scissor, so they do not work for this week. But just so you guys know, I traded Staraptor. I know it's sad after a great performance last week. I traded Staraptor and Steelix to Old Man Tup in this Pittsburgh Piratas for Scizor and Minior. And then I proceeded to drop Minior for Exploud. So I was able to pick up Exploud in replacement essentially of Scizor in this case. I'm sorry, in a replacement of Steelix in this case. Exploud over Steelix. That gives me a very hard-hitting special attacker, which is my team really lacked. I didn't really have the best special presence aside of Clefable and Victini. And then I pick up Scizor essentially as a replacement from Staraptor. Now, I love Staraptor, don't get me wrong, and I was really excited to use it, but I felt that Scizor was going to be a really good fit for this team. It gives me priority, kind of adds to my speed tiers a little bit, gives me something that hits really, really hard. It gives me a good steel type. It actually complements some of our defensive mons like Toxapex and Gliscor really well, and it gives me another hazard removing option as well in a defogger. So I kind of felt like Scizor was going to fit my team really well. Tup was looking to shake things up as he has a rough start, and Staraptor's always been a mon that he wanted, so it's kind of a good deal for both of us. So I get to try Scizor out regardless. I'll miss Staraptor for sure, but I'm excited about Scizor and how we're going to be able to utilize it this season. But again, that's next week, so I'll talk about this again in the matchup, but that'll be for next week. So either way, let's look at Chimp's team. Kieran Black, one of the hardest hitting, biggest wall breaking threats in the format. Kieran Black sports an incredible attack stat, a good special attack stat, gets a lot of coverage moves, earth power, things like that. It's got its Terravolt, which can be really scary, so you do have to be very careful around that thing. This thing's just a monster. Thunderous, which of course has Prankster, so you could try to utilize that. Prankster, T-Wave, things like that, so we have to be very careful around Thunderous. Hits really hard. 111 base speed, outspeeds my entire team. It's a bit of a problem. He's got a Azumarill. Azumarill is really scary, especially like a Belly Drum variant, which is what I think he could bring. I do have some things that can stop it like Toxapex, but otherwise Azumarill is really scary. I think he's going to bring it because that priority Aqua Jet is so valuable against a lot of my team. I'll see I had to build around that thing pretty specifically. He's got a Fortress there, Steel and Bug type. Obviously that big weakness to fire, but still a very, very good Pokemon. Gives him a rapid spinning option, hazard removal, can set hazards himself, which I have to be very careful of this match. If he's able to get that Fortress in and start setting hazards, it could be very problematic for me. He's got a Volcanion, of course. Volcanion, very hard-hitting Pokemon. Crazy to think that he got it in 5th round or whatever in this draft. Volcanion is just a monster, obviously. A little slow, but has a great ability in Water Absorb, I believe, and does get the boosted Scald, like the Steam Eruption move. Very, very good. He's got Silvally, which he could pick any type, and if you guys don't remember the draft, I actually wanted Silvally. I was going to grab it. I think Chimp had one pick before me. He grabbed Silvally, so I wasn't able to grab it, so I think that's when I grabbed maybe Gliscor or Delmise, but yeah, man, I really wanted Silvally, but he's got it. I think if he brings it, it's going to be either a poison variant or a rock variant. I don't know if he's going to bring it. He's kind of got a couple different things that are really good, so I'm not sure. Ditto, of course, which I think he traded for. Ditto gives him some really good transforming options, tries to keep me from setting up. I don't know if he's going to bring Ditto, but it's something you have to kind of keep in the back of your mind for planning. And that's what his team does. He's got some really, really big threats that you have to immediately prepare for. And then he's got a couple of utility mons that make things even more challenging. So Dugtrio is one of those Pokemon, though. Dugtrio really destroys my team. Dugtrio has such a great matchup against me. It's very difficult for me to deal with, so I have to be careful around that thing. Gligar, of course, like a Spadef Gligar could be really scary as well. It's so bulky with the Eviolite, my offensive Pokemon. I have such a physically offensive team. It's very difficult to deal with things like Gligar, so you could bring that, but I expect the Dugtrio more likely. Alomola is another pick that he's got. Very, very bulky. Again, just these huge bulky Pokemon, and they're so, and Cofagrigus too. Let's just talk about that. So when you look at things like Fortress, Gligar, Alomola, Cofagrigus, so many of those are physical, like defensive monsters, and my team is so physically based, and that was one of the things that I wanted to switch it up with. That's why I decided to make those moves to not only get Scizor to replace play Staraptor, which I think is a good switch, but most importantly, grab Exploud to give me something that can break. If I had Exploud and Scizor against Chimpact, this would be a totally different team build, obviously, with Scizor being a great response to Kieran Black, and obviously Exploud being just insane against his team. Exploud would have been so amazing against things like Cofagrigus with the Scrappy, destroys Alomola, could take hits from Dugtrio and really hits the things like Gligar really hard. Would have been nice to have Exploud in this one, but obviously one-shots the Fortress Fire Blast, but nevertheless we don't, so it's okay. But next week we will have those new Pokemon, and we will play Chimpact again later this season as well. So those are the Pokemon that he has on his team. Expecting the Kieran Black, expecting the Thundurus. I think Azu is a very, very likely bring. Silvali's a maybe, Fortress a maybe, Volcanian's a maybe, Dugtrio 100%. I think he's bringing Dugtrio. So I mean that puts us at like 3 or 4 that I'm pretty sure about, and then he could mix up in between there depending on what his sets are, what he wants to bring. So let's kick off our team here. Starting off the team build, I decided to go with Victini, a Pokemon that I know and love and I feel comfortable with. Going a special Victini this week, max speed, basically enough speed to ensure that we outspeed base 95. So we're gonna outspeed Kieran, we're gonna outspeed Silvally, no problem. The only thing on his team aside from Scarfers that outspeed us are Thundurus and obviously Dugtrio. We have the Shed Shell there specifically for Dugtrio. That keeps us from being trapped. Obviously Dugtrio can be a really, really big threat, and with Victini being one of my primary wall breakers, I feel that I have to be prepared for that. Blue Flare obviously hits everything pretty hard. Thunderbolt for things like Volcanion and Azumarill. Toxic is there so he can't set up on me. If he has something like a Kieran Black, I get Toxic it to prevent it from sub roosting on me, things like that. It actually can be really useful to wear down things like Alomola perhaps, or maybe like Cofagrigus, obviously. So there's some options there. If he brings like Rock Silvally, I can hit it with a Toxic and try to wear it down. Glaciate there specifically for 2 reasons. One, it's to hit Gligar most importantly, because that thing could be really difficult to deal with. But 2, I believe if I'm not mistaken, Glaciate does function similarly to Icy Wind, and I'll actually check that right now. I'm pretty sure it does. It's been a while since I used Glaciate, but I'm pretty sure it does. It does lower their speed stat as well. So that's something to note as well. It's kind of like Icy Wind in that it can lower speed stats, which could prove to be incredibly useful in this match. Maybe I can catch something on a switch, lower its speed stat, and then allow something else to revenge kill it. So a couple different options there. We've got our Venomax here. Very different Toxapex set this week. I kind of didn't want to bring Toxapex because I know Chimpact is a very good battler. I know he's going to try to take advantage of that, but I felt that I had to bring Toxapex. I felt like I had to because it's really one of my primary responses to Azu, which he can run like Return Azumarill and run like Belly Drum Return, and that could be problematic. He could also run like Substitute Kieran, which I can't break that thing sub. Thundurus destroys it. I can take some hits from Volcanion, which is okay, but I can't really do much back to it. So he also could run Silvally, like I said, Poison or Rock. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, Venomax is kind of a very important piece of this team here because I'm actually running Toxic Spikes this week, and my strategy is I gotta get those Toxic Spikes up. That needs to be priority number 1, numero uno, is I gotta get those T-Spikes up, because otherwise he's able to set up with things like Kyurem and go for substitutes, and I need that extra damage. And with when I Venoshock something that's poison, I can break Kyurem sub. It's the only way I can get around Kyurem sub is if he brings that, is with Venoshock. So very tough decisions, right? I mean, this was a very tough team build, like I said. I felt like Venomax had some positives and some negatives. It's one of those Pokemon that's just so bulky, but it is set up fodder, so you have to be very careful around it. Venoshock hopefully helps me prevent that, at least in some ways. The nice thing is Sugar Berry allows me to take 2 Earthquakes from Dugtrio. I can Scald it. Scald is a good chance to kill. There's a chance to kill. If I get the burn, it does kill, so that's pretty nice. We do have a tiny bit of special attack investment on this thing. 92 special attack EVs, bold, max HP, a good amount of defense. This thing is designed to break subs if things are poisoned. It does a tremendous amount to Azu if it's poisoned, and it can help against the team offensively, even though it's not the biggest offensive threat. Again, I kind of wanted to cover some of my potential issues there, and I didn't run Haze this week because I felt like the only thing that he would really like set up that I'd need to haze would be like Azu, but I'm not gonna have time to haze it. If Azu sets up, we're in trouble anyway. You know, same thing like everything else is like he's gonna set up with subs, in my opinion. Aside from like Nasty Plot Cofagrigus, which I really wasn't gonna be able to do much to. So I feel like anything else he would set up, it would be with a substitute, not like stat boost. So that's why I didn't go with Haze. But we'll see how Venomax functions this week. Could be the bane of our existence or the success for us, I don't know. But we've got our Electross here, Slurp, running Modest Levitate, Assault Vest, Volt Switch, Flamethrower, knockoff, Dragon Pulse. Volt Switch, obviously, for things like Alomola, giving me priority, Switch Initiative, Volcanion, things like that. I can take some hits from those Pokemon. Flamethrower, Fortress, pretty obvious, knockoff, just General Annoyance, Dragon Pulse, because none of the other moves can break Kyurem sub. Again, common theme here. I gotta be ready for a Kyurem sub because I know Sub Roost Kyurem Black is so scary. I know how scary this thing is. He could run Banded and just run through me, but nevertheless, you gotta be prepared for it. So I decided to go with the Dragon Pulse there. I know it doesn't do much for the rest of his team, but it was better to me than Thunderbolt because I really felt like hitting that Kyurem was gonna be super important. So that's why I went with Dragon Pulse there. Otherwise, we're pretty much max HP, max special attack. We got our Clefable here, which I'm hoping will be an unsung hero this week. Running the defensive Clefable leftovers, excuse me, Calm, 84 defense, I'm sorry, 84 special defense, 172 defense EVs, Moonblast, Cosmic Power, Calm Mind, Soft Boiled. This thing could win us the game. If there's a way for me to win this game, I think this is going to be one of the main ways we do it, if I'm being honest here. This thing can set up on so many things on his team. It can set up on Fortress. It can set up on Gligar. It can set up on Alomola. It can set up on Dugtrio. It can set so many things get absolutely set up on by Deborah here. Cosmic Power is my little trick up my sleeve. If I can get up a Cosmic Power, some Calm Minds, that's going to enhance my bulk all around and just allow me to take hits all day from things. So, you know, that works really well. I got the Moonblast there to hit really hard. Obviously, it doesn't do much to Volcanion. Obviously, it doesn't do much to Fortress, but Fortress isn't doing much back to me, and I'm not really that concerned about Volcanion if I'm able to set up in front of it anyway. I could stall it out, no problemo, weaken it. If I get those Toxic Spikes up again, super important, really about wearing the team down. I have a very core strategy this week, and if it doesn't work, it's gonna be bad. Like, that's really how it comes down to. This was a very tough prep for us. So, but Deborah could put in the finest of work. Unfortunately, this will be the last match you see me rocking it. I love this Pokemon so much, but this will be our final match for that, as I did, like I said, traded away. But we're bringing Staraptor, the Mohawk, back, who actually picked up the win last week for us, picking up a couple kills there. I think it was 3 kills against Old Man Tup. Choice Banded, Reckless Staraptor, enough speed to ensure that we're gonna outspeed that Kyurem, things like that. Brave Bird, Quick Attack, Close Combat, U-Turn. We don't need Double Edge in this match. I was thinking about it. I was looking at it. I'm like, what do I even need Double Edge for? Close Combat's a little bit better, as it does hit potentially Silvally Rock. It does hit Kyurem Black a little bit harder, guarantees the Oko there. With a tiny bit of chip damage, though, Mohawk can really put in some work. The one thing would be the Thundurus. Is obviously Double Edge would be doing more to Thundurus, but Thundurus is faster anyway, so it's not really like I'm going to be staying in against that thing, if I'm being totally honest. So it was kind of a tricky situation, but to me, it was like, what was I going to do? I'm not staying in against it, so there really was no point. I love the Quick Attack though. Hits things like a Azumarill and outspeeds it. Can hit weakened like Volcanion, can hit weakened like Kyurem, stuff like that. So I do like the Quick Attack as well. And this is really my way to break down his walls, man. I got a Brave Bird and just run through things like Gligar, run through things like Fortress and Alomola. Reckless Brave Bird hits really hard, but if he gets up rocks, it's gonna be really tricky for us. His rock setters would be Gligar or Dugtrio or Fortress. One of those would be his rock setters, so we have to be pretty careful around those. But last but not least is gonna be our sweeper for the game. It is gonna be Rage here, which does have one little clean with a Scarf Rage before, but decided to go Life Orb. I was debating between Life Orb and Lum because of Thunderous T-Wave, but I really feel like Life Orb is important. Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Poison Jab, Dragon Dance. Dragon Claw destroys Kyurem, obviously beats Thundurus. Poison Jab for Azumarill. Had to bring Rage because if he does Belly Drum Azumarill, this is the only thing that could revenge kill it, because I can live the Aqua Jet at +6. This is really the only thing, so I gotta keep this thing healthy in the back. Earthquake because I needed something to hit Fortress, otherwise I can't really hit it. It also hits Silvally Rock or Poison if I think he's gonna bring those, but otherwise Dragon Claw really risks the rest of his team. But the thing is, I have to break down those physical wall breakers. If he has Gligar still around, if he has Alomola still around, if he has, you know, Cofagrigus still around, and I don't have them weakened, or I'm not able to get up those T-spikes ahead of time, they could be very difficult to deal with. But again, for every one of those defensive mons that Chimpact brings, he takes away one of the offensive mons, right? So that could actually help out things like Clefable. So I built this team in a very interesting way. Like I said, core strategy around Toxic Spikes, but we've got things like Staraptor to break holes. We've got things like Clefable to potentially set up on his slower defensive mons. Haxorus can sweep his team if I get up a Dragon Dance or two. Victini's there to do some mixed wall breaking. Obviously, Slurp there to kind of meld the team together, take some hits from Thundurus, as it does have the Assault Vest, so really my best switch into that thing, and I can Volt Switch out on it. Doesn't really have anything, and like I can hit, he's not gonna, like, Dugtrio's not a safe switch into Electross or anything like that. So a couple of things there. Obviously, I don't want to get trapped, but the only things he can really trap are Haxorus, which I'm not too concerned about being trapped. He can't trap Victini because of Shed Shell. Venomax can beat Dugtrio one-on-one because of the Sugar Berry. So we've got our plans. I think we actually have a solid team. Last time I played Chimpact, though, he 6-0'd me due to baton passing shenanigans, which are now banned in the league. So I don't really, you know, can't put too much merit in that. But nevertheless, he's a very, very good battler. Very good battler. Very good team builder. One of my my pals, so I'm excited for this matchup, guys, and I hope you enjoyed our team prep here. Hope that was in depth for you guys. That's gonna be that for me, guys. Match will be tomorrow. I hope you guys are stoked. My name is Dan. I also go by aDrive, and I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.